In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of
Tell them
change
to please
brought
kind
forth
of
by the
calm down
whispers
a
of
little
hope
bit.
and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on the canvas of America. Tonight, our special guest is Mr. Artie Jones III. Artie is a visionary economic development leader, civic strategist, and community builder with a legacy of transforming cities through inclusive growth. As the former director of economic development for the city of College Park, Georgia, Artie has spent decades at the intersection of business policies and community championing initiatives that uplift underserved neighborhoods while attracting sustainable investment. With a deep belief in the power of collaboration, Artie has led multi-million dollar redevelopment projects, fostered public-private partnerships, and mentored a new generation of civic leaders. His work reflects a commitment to equity, legacy, and long-term impact, values that resonate deeply with the mission of America in Black and White. In this episode, Artie joins us to discuss economic justice, Black entrepreneurship, and what it takes to build thriving communities from the ground up. His insights are rooted in expertise and experience, driven by purpose and delivered with clarity. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Mr. Artie Jones to the show.
How you doing, Charles?
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Okay. Are you here?
Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
sir. I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. I'm. There's. Look. Get you here on.
Video.
Yes, I'm trying to. There's actually. Um, what is going on here? I'm actually having a difficult time here getting this thing to work here. There we go. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So thank you for being on the show this evening, doing this special episode. Is there anything you'd like to add to your bio before we get into the show?
Um, I guess nothing really in my bio. Just I'm from a small town in southeast Georgia. Lived in Georgia my entire life. I'm matriculated at Savannah State College and Valdosta State University. And I have a pretty big family, but I've been working in economic development since 1999 in various communities throughout the state of Georgia. And it's something that I love doing. And I always told, I guess when I was 2 years into my career, I said this to a gentleman. I said, if I was a wealthy person, economic development is something that I would still do for free, just because of the impact that I could have in people's lives.
Yes, sir. So I'd like to start with your entrepreneurship and your vision. Can you tell us what inspired your journey into entrepreneurship?
Okay, I pretty much picked up entrepreneurship from my parents. My parents, they both had 9-to-5 jobs starting out, and my mother was the one that branched out into entrepreneurship first. She got into real estate, became a real estate salesperson. And from moving on to real estate, she became to own her own real estate company. And from that point, her and my dad, they end up opening up daycare facilities. And the rest is history. My dad, he when I was about 8 years old, he became the first African American county commissioner in Camden County, Georgia. So I've always been in the public sector and the private sector at the same time, and I believe that's kind of how I've ended up being in economic development with local governments over the past 26 years.
Oh wow! So with that much public service, I mean, is it the work from the public what you do for the county governments? Is that something that give you an extra incentive to be more of an economic developer and to help to develop and help these people in these underserved communities?
Yeah. Well, in the community that I grew up in, it was African Americans were the minority in the community. They only made up about 15% of the population. And as my parents were, starting businesses, moving forward, I saw that they were not receiving the attention that they needed as small business people. Luckily, they were able to survive, get through difficult times. So my job, what I feel that my responsibility is within the community is make sure that everyone, all entrepreneurs, if they're willing to put in the work, to support them and to provide them with a very tailored strategic plan to help them to be successful. I believe that economic development and help and working with entrepreneurs, it's not a cookie cutter type thing. You have to look at each business individually. You have to look at the person that's running that business, what talents and strengths that they have. Just like a SWOT analysis, you want to build upon those strengths, try to identify those weaknesses, look at opportunities that for growth, and at the same time, be careful for those threats that might be around the corner. Those are the type of things that I help entrepreneurs to do, because lots of times when they're in the business, they're kind of in a silo and they cannot see the outside what's going on because they're in the middle of the business and they're doing things. I'm there to hopefully help them and give them a leg up to give them that opportunity to be more successful over time.
So, how did your early business ventures shape your leadership style?
Well, my mother had this to say about me. She said something to the effect that I kind of had a hard head growing up. But she said that if there was, I'm an excellent example of how to do things the wrong way. That if there was something out there that could go wrong, I've probably done it. But I've learned from that over time. And because I've learned from so many mistakes and missteps, I'm able to pass that knowledge on to others. So hopefully that they won't fall into that, that same issue over time. So I would say that entrepreneurship has helped me. Being an entrepreneur and also working in local government has helped me to be able to polish my skills. So many times you'll have professors in college that teach business, yet they've never had a business. I don't have anything against professors that teach business and don't have a business, but it's kind of hard to live in the shoes of a business person and have not ever been in business for yourself.
That's an ugly oxymoron, but that's very, very true. If there was one thing that you can tell an up and coming entrepreneur right now, if you had to give them some advice of one skill that they need most, what would that be?
I would say to find a mentor. Find somebody that is very successful that you would like to be like, or that you feel that has wisdom, and bounce your ideas off of that person. That doesn't necessarily need to be a friend. It might be somebody that you will talk to maybe once a month, once a quarter, but have that mentor, somebody that you can look up to that can give you advice. Everyone doesn't have two parents at home. Everybody doesn't have one parent at home. You might have grandmama or an aunt or even a brother raising you. Lots of times they're limited because they're trying to provide a living for you and provide you with the opportunities that they didn't have. So it's up to the entrepreneur themselves to go out and find that mentor so that they'll at least have somebody, somewhat of a compass to kind of keep them on the straight and narrow, and to give them that pep talk and to be honest with them when others may not.
So, what does Black entrepreneurship mean to you in today's economic climate?
I would say that given the situation that we're in right now with the federal government and kind of the furloughs that are going on and just kind of the not knowing what's going to happen from day to day, I'd say that right now this is a very, very challenging time. But I would also say this is that right now is the time that Black or minority entrepreneurs should really try to stick together and find ways to make things work on the local level. Of course, the federal government, they have these laws that will come down that will impact us, but I look at local government, like cities and counties, that's where the rubber meets the road. We have to be cognizant, put good officials in office. We have to have good officials to put good policies in place. And we also have to have communities that are business friendly, ones that want to support small businesses. So, I mean, that would be my advice.
So, what are the biggest challenges Black entrepreneurs face, and how do we overcome them?
Biggest challenges? What I would say, one thing that I would say is that as an African American entrepreneur, as a Black entrepreneur, the world doesn't care that you're Black in most cases. So we kind of, I would say that not feel sorry for yourself, but we have to be better. We have to go above and beyond. The excuses of, oh, I didn't get this because of that or something like that, you know, you kind of have to leave that at home, and you have to kind of, you know, grind, and you have to get out there, and you have to keep knocking on doors, and you have to continue to push forward, and you have to exceed the expectations of the person that you're dealing business with. As an African American entrepreneur, I know that I feel that you have to be confident in moving forward. You have to walk in the room like you belong in the room. You have to walk in the room like you own the room. And once you get in the room, don't talk about things that you don't know about. Things that you don't know that much about, be quiet. Things that you know a lot about, speak on it. You have to be cordial. People want to do business with people that are friendly, that are likable. At the end of the day, money is green. And if once you work with individuals, regardless of their color, regardless of their nationality, if they feel that you're an honest person, if they feel that you're likable, they're probably going to provide you with referrals, and they will probably end up working with you. That's been my experience over the years. I would say that my circle is very small. There are very, very few individuals that I work with on a regular basis. But the reason I do work with those individuals is because they know my expectations and I know their expectations. I know they're going to be honest with me. I'm going to be honest with them. They know how I think. I kind of know how they think also. That didn't come overnight. That came over 5, 10, 15, 20 years of working with them on projects in numerous communities. And because of them, that has extended my network to other individuals. And whenever you have a good colleague or a good business person that you deal with, they're going to refer you to other good people in most cases. So I think that that's very valuable, relationships.
So, how do you balance profit with purpose in your ventures?
Well, I believe that the service that I provide is a very valued service. And at the end of the day, it would be something that I would be willing to pay for myself if I needed it. So as I make money to support my family, as I make money to support those consultants that I work with, if I make money to support employees, I try to keep in mind that it's a big responsibility, and I have to make sure that at the end of the day, that payrolls can be met because they have livelihoods. At the same time, I want to make sure that at the same time that we're providing a great service also. As an entrepreneur, you have to make some difficult decisions. Um, there might be slow times where business isn't as good. If you are an entrepreneur and you're a successful entrepreneur, you strategize and you have contingencies in place to be able to get over those rough points. And those that don't have those contingencies in place usually fall into dire straits. Things become difficult. So I would say that I'm not a millionaire, nowhere near being a millionaire, but I feel that I am comfortable, and I feel that the more business that I do, the more people that I work with, the more people that are happy with my services, that I'm building more business to the point of being able to one day I'll have all the money that I need to pass on to my family. Hopefully there'll be a business there that I can pass on to them also.
So, what's one lesson you learned the hard way as a business owner?
That I need, I guess the biggest thing is that to recognize what I was not well at in my business. I can't be everything in the business. I felt that I could do 24 things, and even if those 24 things, those 24 things, that one thing that I could not do could make or break the business. I had to really surround myself with individuals that were smarter than me, that were more um, uh, efficient than me in doing certain things. Just like me, I'm not a social media person. That just ain't me. But I do know a young lady, and I work with her um, often, and she does an excellent job of my social media. Everybody thinks it's coming from me. Everybody thinks it's coming from King City Advisors. But hey, all I'm doing is cutting and pasting. Believe me. uh, Accounting. I know how to add and subtract, multiply and divide, but you have to get an accountant. You have to have somebody that's going to keep your finances, you know, um, at least provide you with that perspective of where you are on any given day. Um, I'm not a person. I hate, I hate dealing with, GIS, Geographic Information Systems, and that's just not my thing. Um, but I love development. I love negotiating. I love doing strategy. I love doing retreats. I love, you know, problem solving. Um, that's something that I'm well at. So I try to put my time into that. What I find out is that when you put people where they are comfortable, they end up doing a great job for you, and you end up not feeling exhausted and just overwhelmed. Um, so that's my big thing. Know what you know, but know what you don't know also, and with surround yourself with people that can help you to become more efficient in your business.
So, how do you define legacy in business?
Legacy in business, I look at what can I do now to pass on to generations in the future. As I work with the City of College Park as their economic development director and the executive director over the Development Authority, um, I um, I attended a lot of ribbon cuttings for businesses and a lot of groundbreakings for projects. One particular project, the Gateway Arena, which is the home of the College Park Skyhawks, the G League team for the Atlanta Hawks. and also the home for the Atlanta Dream, the WNBA team. That particular project, that arena was my project. It all came from kind of a dream of a partnership with the College Park, with the Atlanta Hawks. And to have that first conversation in 2018, and then in 2020, to actually walk in the building and have the first games and the first events was, to me, that was a legacy. My plaque in front of the Gateway Arena with my name on it, I can bring my grandkids back years from now to look at that and say, hey, granddad had something to do with that. I love that as, a legacy. And then at the same time, I've worked on projects where I was able to, help single mothers who wanted to own their first home to get the keys to their first home. And now that mother has a home, her kids has a home, they go to school every day, and I can point back and say, hey, I was a part of that neighborhood right there. I had something to do with that. That legacy to me pays a lot more in dividends to me, to keep me pushing forward and doing the work, than it does in most cases to make money.
So what advice would you give to someone launching their first business in a marginalized community?
First and foremost, if you're, and this goes back to kind of one of the questions that you asked me earlier about what advice would I give an entrepreneur starting out, and I talked to you about a mentor. Regardless of regardless of what neighborhood you're opening up this business in, you need to first find out if it's a business that's actually needed in that community. First and foremost, just because I like to read books doesn't mean that Artie should go and open a bookstore. Just because, I like ice cream doesn't necessarily mean I should go and open up an ice cream shop. You have to, these days, there is no reason, especially with AI, ChatGPT, and a lot of these other artificial intelligence type programs, there isn't a reason that the average person like you or I can't find out what the needs are within the community, come up with strategies to be able to build a business, put a business plan together. Putting a business out there, it should not be done haphazardly. It's just like, okay, I want to open a business, and 2 weeks from then, you're opening up a business. That would kind of be, that's not wise to do. I think it takes careful planning. You need to make sure that the service or the product that you are focusing on is something that's needed within the community. And you need to bounce that idea off of a mentor, family members, strangers, to ask them their feedback. And if you get the affirmative, if you have your plan together, if you have your money lined up, then I would, proceed forward at that point, but not just to go out there and open up a business, because it's not for everyone. Some people need to have a 9-to-5. Some people are not disciplined enough to work 60, 70 hours a week for themselves. But then you have those out there that hate working 40, 50 hours a week, and sometimes they aspire to be business people, but they're, like I said, they're not that dedicated. So that's my advice.
So how do you approach innovation in traditionally underserved markets?
Innovation is something. Innovation is something that's being used now in underserved markets, not so much in the past, but I feel that it's something that's definitely a pro right now. In my line of work, let's just say, for instance, you want to open up a franchise. And let's just say that franchise happens to be a restaurant, a McDonald's or something like that. Back in the day, to open up, a McDonald's, of course, you need to have certain traffic counts in an area. You needed to have a certain population within the area. and you needed to have, you know, a certain demographic in that area, and then you could locate a McDonald's there, and that was pretty much it. Nowadays, with technology, um, it's a lot different. Um, they have these things called leakage studies. And a leakage study can identify where Mr. King, it can identify where you buy your furniture at, the zip code where you buy your furniture, where you buy your groceries, and also where you go to eat out for at a restaurant. And it keeps up with your phone data. Where are you? How long are you at various locations? And because of that data, now real time we can find out where people are going, how much money is leaving the community, how much is staying in the community, and what those needs are. Um, that is an example of what businesses use now. They don't just look at traffic counts now. They don't just look at population. They look at the size of the homes. They look at the income of the people that are inside those homes right now. They look at, you know, a number of different things to ascertain if a particular area needs a certain type of service. And that's how the restaurants, grocery stores, and other businesses locate. So it's technology has gone a long ways, but it has made my job a lot easier whenever I'm trying to help an entrepreneur to decide upon where he should locate a certain type of business, and to find out if if it's even a viable project.
So, what role does faith or personal philosophy play in your entrepreneurial decisions?
Well, I am a man of faith, and I believe that that has been kind of the what's guided me over the years to be able to stay to work with individuals, to work with communities. In some cases, people that work in my capacity, sometimes they were there just to earn a check. Um, in my capacity, I feel that it is my responsibility to provide the best service possible, because I'm dealing with individuals who are sometimes using their life savings to open up a business. So it's their livelihood. So I have their livelihood in my hands. And if I don't act responsibly, I could be the reason why that person is successful or if they fail. So I believe that any person that is a person of faith would probably react the same way, would probably do the same thing. So being a person of faith has helped me, like I said, to push forward and to do the best job possible, even when it's difficult.
Well, I'm going to say I want to say this because when I think about a man such as yourself that's done the great things that you're doing and doing the great things that you do. I think that the difference, and I think what a lot of people, those that should be getting from what you're putting out now, I think it goes more to confidence. Have a great moral compass, but also try to be as business savvy as possible when we talk about innovation. Now, with some people, for those that might not have the opportunity or maybe understand how to do that research to gather that data, as you say, for what are needed in communities. What are some of the things that they can do other than trying to do, we have those that do those checks where you put your business against other benchmarks, where you try to benchmark other businesses. But in the process of the benchmark, how can they actually gather access to those local, county, city government plans to maybe get a better understanding? Or what are some of the other things that they can use in order to help them in that situation?
Okay, that is very simple. In every community, and I would say just about every community, there are people who are economic development directors and economic development professionals. Those individuals, you should be able to go to any city or county government, find that department, economic development department, and you should be able to ask them the very same questions, the very same things that we're talking about right now. That's what they do. That's what they're there for. Sometimes they'll have seminars on running a small business, finances, marketing, different topics. Sometimes they can tell you about the various incentives that are available. If you locate a certain type of job in the community, they may be able to provide you with some type of grant money or incentive money for certain types of businesses that are needed in the community. So I would say that any entrepreneur out there, I don't care if you're opening up a coffee shop, a daycare facility, or an accounting firm, you need to reach out to your economic development department at your local government and find out what types of incentives that they have and what types of programs that they have. Second, you could also reach out to the Small Business Development Center in your area. There are a lot of programs that SBDC has through the U.S. Department of Small Businesses. That's another great avenue. That's an avenue that helped my parents when they were opening up their business or businesses. Also, and I'm not sure of what state anybody is in, but since I'm in the state of Georgia, we also use the Carl Vinson Institute also through the University of Georgia. They have lots of great programs there that can definitely help prepare entrepreneurs, business people. And then, of course, if you have a larger company, if you're coming from out of state into the state, you may want to check with your state economic development organization. In Georgia, it's the Georgia Department of Economic Development. They have incentives also, and these are probably larger scale incentives, money. They have training programs. If you need to have your employees trained to do certain things within your business, you can get that through the state also. So, and there's lots of, like I said, there's opportunities for that. And then if you locate your business within certain strategic areas throughout your community, there are these things called opportunity zones, which you can get a state income tax. You can get a certain amount of money for each job that you create, that you have at your business. And then you can receive that in the form of a state income tax credit, which you can get that over a 5-year period of time, and you have 10 years to burn that off, and that increases your bottom line. So that's definitely a great incentive. So there's lots of resources out there. Just reach out to your local economic development professional.
So we're going to switch over to and maybe talk a little bit more in depth about your work in economic development and policy. Okay. So what drew you to the field of economic development?
This is probably not the answer that you want to hear, but when I was in college, I enjoyed college a little bit too much to the point where I almost flunked out. So I took a little breather from college. And when I came back, when I found out that I wasn't going to be able to make the money that I wanted to make and everything, I went back to college about a year later. And I asked my advisor, I said, well, how can I get out of school the fastest without taking statistics? Those are the only two things I gave them. That's the only two things I gave them. So, and they said political science was the way to go. I said, okay, political science. So I went ahead, went back to school, got a degree in political science, did an internship. I did an internship, guess what, for a local government.
Oh, wow.
And I happened to be able to work with the city manager, and I worked in numerous departments doing numerous things. And I said, man, this is cool. This is cool. I like this. So finished up the internship, got my degree. At the same time, I was working on my master's degree. And I went ahead and finished my master's degree in about 1 year. And before I finished it, the city where I did the internship offered me a position as the Community and Economic Development Director. So that's how I ended up working in local government, and I've been there pretty much ever since.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting story. I mean, you know, that's one that I think by chance where you happen to be at the right place at the right time. You know, because I think a lot of kids don't actually get an opportunity like that.
Yeah, it was definitely a great opportunity for me. I learned a great deal, and even when they hired me for the position, I still didn't have a clue of what I was supposed to do. But I kind of faked it until I made it, and here I am, 26 years later.
Can you share a project you're most proud of from your time in College Park?
There are a lot of great projects there in College Park. I would have to say that being able to kind of build a framework for the development called 6 West is probably one of my. I feel that it's a great project. And the thing is that the project is kind of in its infancy now. Even though I'm not there, it's in its infancy. It's a project that's probably going to be a 25 to 30-year project, because this was roughly 320 acres. It was a huge assemblage of property from private property owners, the city of Atlanta. And it was an opportunity for us to take an area that was once acquired by the airport because of the expansion of the airport, was reacquired back by the city of College Park for a mixed-use development that would include hotels, multifamily, single-family, Class A office buildings, retail spaces. Um, I feel that the framework, the work that I did there in putting together the redevelopment plan, putting together the tax allocation district, even putting in some of the early infrastructure into that area, that it's going to pay major dividends down the road for the next generation. Um, Even though, like I said, it's in its infancy, I feel that that particular project that is the future of the city of College Park. And it's something that I can look back on and say that's a part of my legacy.
Well, can you tell us this? When it comes to like displacement, and with your work in the economic development, how do you ensure that development doesn't lead to displacement?
The biggest thing with that is that whenever you're doing redevelopment, you have to have the entire community involved so that there is not that displacement. You have to do your research and find out history about the area also. That's one thing I did when I was in College Park. I just knew that there was a bunch of property over here. It wasn't developed. It was once neighborhoods, but it seemed to be in ruins. Didn't know exactly what went on. So I went to an old historical library there and did research and found out about the history and how everything came to be, and found out that most of the property over there was actually owned by the city of Atlanta, but it was in College Park. Found out that this particular area, families were moved out. Urban sprawl. They moved out of the city into the more rural areas in unincorporated Fulton County and other surrounding areas. And when I found out the history, when we started to do the redevelopment plans, and we had these huge community meetings with up to 200 people participating at these meetings, when everybody has a part of that plan, when everybody is a part of the plan, you better believe that you're not going to have anyone displaced further down the road. Luckily, within that area, there was probably only maybe 2 or 3 families that still lived in that area. So there wasn't anybody there anyway. But what I wanted to do is make sure that whatever we redevelop that area into, 6 West, that we would do something to try to capture the history of that area, so that as generations came back to visit, they would still see remnants of what that community once was, even though it was redeveloped.
So, what does equitable development look like in practice?
Equitable is a lot different than equal. Equitable is our ability to be able to put everyone on a level playing field so that we all can realize success down the road. I'm a person. I am a person about equity. Um, an example: I have a big family. I have 5 kids. As you can see, there's a bunch of pictures behind me. I got 5 kids, and I don't treat all of my children equally. I treat them equitably. Some kids need more stroking than others. Some need less attention. Others need more attention. Whenever you're looking at developing in a community, whenever you look at equitably developing, you have to look at the areas that are weaker, and you have to strengthen those weaker areas. You know that saying that they say that a rope is strongest as weakest link. Well, what I try to do is I try to find the weakest area within the community, and I try to start there. If I can strengthen that weakest area, you better believe the areas that are already doing well are going to do better.
How do you engage community voices in planning and execution?
Say that one more time.
How do you engage community voices in planning and execution?
Okay. Well, many different ways. You have to meet people where they are. Everybody doesn't use social media. I don't. Not often, at least. Everyone doesn't, pay attention to flyers, the paper. Everyone doesn't get out as much as others do. Some people will be at every single city council meeting. Some people can probably say that they haven't been to a city council meeting in 20 years. So you have to your strategy has to be, who's the audience and how do I reach that audience? And then you have to go out and reach out to them however is most effective. It might be through your churches. It might be through your nonprofit organizations. It might be through your local government. It might be television, newspaper, social media, but you have to go out and try to exhaust all possibilities so that you can try to cast the biggest net to be able to capture the most people, to get their attention so that they would participate.
So, what's the biggest misconception people have about economic development?
I would say that most people think that economic development is everything. For the sake of not arguing with people, I let them go on to think that to a certain degree. But economic development is economic development professionals. What we do in communities is we don't create the first job in a community. Economic development professionals, we don't really do any major building other than public facilities and infrastructure. What we do is we try to build an environment that is attractive for businesses to locate. And from that point, we try to do what we can to help those businesses to be successful, to expand, to create more jobs, and also to build the tax base so that the local governments can get more tax revenue to be able to provide more police, more fire, more sidewalks, fix the holes in the street, to provide those services to create a higher quality of life. So economic development does touch lots of different things, but economic development isn't everything. Mm-hmm. And I'll kind of leave it as that. I know that some people will argue with me, but economic development is not everything, but lots of people think that it is. So like I said, for the lack of arguing, I don't argue with them. I just try to stay within stay in my lane, and to do those things which I feel that I can get the most impact in the community.
So, like, when we talk about these misconceptions, though, like, what is it that's causing these people to get the misconception? What are some of those things that give them this misconception of what economic development is?
Most people think that anytime money changes hands, it's economic development. That is not the case.
I hope not.
Yeah, but that's what people think. So it's like, okay, it's economic development. We're gonna go out and have a fish fry. Well, that's not economic development. That's a fundraiser.
Mhm.
It's farmers markets. Okay, yeah, farmers market. That's it's kind of okay. You have fresh produce. You have small business people out there kind of testing the waters to see if they can make a few dollars, and maybe one day they might get a bricks and mortar business. Okay, but that's not really economic development. They're just kind of testing the waters. Uh,
Okay.
Economic development is me being able to hire someone and give them a job, and they can take that money and they can use it to support their families. Economic development is someone going across the street and building a building that people are going to work in, and they're providing a service, but they're also providing wages for those individuals to be able to go and raise their, support their families. Economic development is the ability for um, the collection to increase the tax value of property. That's very, very important, because that's what local governments use for their operations. That's what local government uses to fix your streets, keep the street lights on, clean up the park, build a park or a playground. So economic development, the misconceptions are very huge, but at the same time, um, it's not about, I guess, the definition of economic development. It is, do you have viable businesses out there? Are they struggling right now? Can they do better? What can I do to help those businesses do better? What can I do to help that business to hire 5 additional people, and provide, instead of barely a decent wage, have that business to hire 5 people that have living wages, where they don't have to have a part-time job in addition to a full-time job.
Wow. So, how do you measure success beyond dollars and square footage?
I would measure success by the civility within the community itself. If people are generally happy, that means that they're probably getting, food on their table each day to eat. That probably means that they have a roof over their head. That probably means that your parks and are in good shape. That probably means that they feel safe. They can walk at night if they want to, or walk during the daytime, or even uh, walk across a parking lot to a retail store. We've heard some horror stories of places that's crime so bad that you can't even walk during the daytime and not fear for your life. So I would say civility, the people's ability to feel safe and to be involved in their community. I say that that's definitely a measure of success, economic development success in a community.
What role should local government play in supporting Black-owned businesses?
Well, I think roles that government should play is pretty much the same thing that we've been talking about all night. Is that we need to, tailor economic development to the needs of the community. Different communities need different types of support, and until we recognize that, we you're not helping the local entrepreneurs and the local businesses. Uh, Identify what the need is and address those needs. Don't just provide a service or a program for the sake of saying I did it and check the box, but understand what your needs are in the community. And you have to go around as an economic development professional. You have to go around door to door to these businesses to find out how they are doing. You can't just drive by and say, okay, yeah, the open sign is owning that business. They're doing well. You have to actually go in there and ask them how are things going? Is there anything that the city can do to help you, or that local government can do to help you to become more successful? Or, are you looking at expanding, or how could we help you to expand? Or are you at a point right now where you think that another community might look more attractive for you to do business in other than the community that you're in right now. You have to get out and ask those questions to find out what those needs are. And that's one thing that effective economic development professional does.
Let me ask you this because that was I love how that works, but can you tell us if so, are case studies a part of economic development, and if so, how? What do they do?
I don't believe in reinventing the wheel, and I believe that if there's a problem that I may be facing in a community, that there's probably somebody out there that already had that problem. So case studies are very effective, but let's just say for the most part that I can't find a case study. I can't find someone that's been through what I might be going through in the community. Well, what I might do is that there's probably something that's pretty similar to that I could benchmark and utilize that to be able to come up with a strategy for addressing whatever that problem is that I'm facing in another community. So I would say that if there's something that if there's a problem out there, it's probably not a brand new problem. It's probably just brand new to me. And lots of times it's just a matter of getting on the phone or emailing the individual or the community where that problem happened. And they'll be able to provide you with a playbook of how they address that problem. I believe in networking. Networking is key. You have to reach out. You have to not be afraid to get on the phone to talk to people or even drive to the other community. I've had many people that come to my community and they said, can I mirror you for a day? Can I sit in on this? Can I do this? Can I do that? And I said, I was flattered that they wanted to hear of something that I did. To me, it was simple, but in their community, it was a real problem. So what better way to learn how to address it than to actually go to the horse and get the story from that individual?
How do you build trust between developers and historically marginalized communities?
That's a good question. My approach is not difficult to build trust. First and foremost, I have to trust the developer. I don't represent the developer when I work for a local government. I represent the people. So I do due diligence on the developer myself. I'll do due diligence on the developer before I meet with him. I'll find out who he is. I'll find out his phone number, get their website address, and then I'll go off and do my little research. It's amazing what you can find online these days. Once you get that information, I'll have a meeting with the developer and I'll ask him questions that I already know the answer to see if I'm going to get an honest answer. Second, I'm going to reach out to others that they may have worked with before. Just check on their track record. I'm also going to, during my interview with the developer, I'm going to ask him questions about some of his past projects also to see if they're going to be honest about that. And after I feel comfortable and after I've done my due diligence, then at that time, if they provided me with a proposal that seems workable, something that I feel that the community would be interested in, that's when I'll bring it to the powers that be, which may be mayor and council, or it may be the development authority board, or it may be some other advisory committee that the community has. Because more than likely, the project will end up becoming a P3, a public-private partnership. And whenever I get the public involved with a private entity, I want to make sure that it's a good relationship and that I'm not setting the community up for failure. That's how you build it.
Look, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I love that process that you just discussed with us. So I'm gonna tell you this as a former investigator, with the U.S. Department of Labor, and understanding and learning, how to use these techniques, to learn about research and finding the information that you needed, and doing your fact finding in order to conclude an investigation. Let's say if you guys, as economic developers, and you went out and, as you say, you do your research the way you do your research, and you find a lot of bad things in one of these developers' history that's like systemic, but they're still been free flowing and they've been getting this pass. How do you make that determination if you're going to continue that or you're going to sever that tie?
It's not a hard thing for me to do.
Mhm.
It may not always put me in a positive political light,
Mhm.
but once again, I don't represent, well, with local governments, I don't represent the developers. I represent the people. I represent the tax dollars that comes from the real estate, the property, the tax dollars
Mhm.
that goes to the general fund revenue, general fund budget. That's what pays my salary. So I have to do what's in the best interest of the community, and the good, the bad, or the ugly, regardless of how many relationships that we've had with them. I'm going to put it out there so that it's on the record, and that's for others to make that well-informed decision on their conscience. But I will put it out there so that they'll have to make that decision on their own. And if it's a situation where I feel that I can't work for them because of working for a developer that may be doing something shady, then I'll have to make that determination at the time, and if I need to sever my ties and move on. But I think that that's what any upstanding person would do.
What's your vision for the future of economic development in Black communities?
The future is I feel that economic development, especially in underserved communities, I feel that the playbook is a little bit different. It has to be different. It can't be like the cookie cutter economic development that has been that's taught now um, to professionals around the country. I feel that, like I said, it has to be something that's very tailored. You have to really go into that community and you have to find out about the history, and you got to try to fix those things so that you have a firm foundation moving forward.
Mhm.
You have to have, I feel that the communities have to be humble enough to how should I put this? Have to be humble enough to say that we may have made a mistake. We may have gone down the wrong road all these years. Here's what we need to do to kind of fix these problems moving forward. Most of the time in a community, especially if you're an elected official and you've made a mistake here or there, and instead of saying, hey, my bad, I I did this, I should not have done that, um, they do something to cover it up. And they make a bad decision after bad decision after bad decision.
Mhm.
With me, since I know I have to do the heavy lift, I try to fix the problem so that I'm not building on top of that again and again and again. Because sooner or later, I'm gonna have to answer for it. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna be able to hide it like an elected official.
Mhm.
Staff are always held to a higher standard when it comes down to local government.
Mhm.
If you're an elected official, you do something wrong, you get a pop on the hand, and most of the time, it's
Mhm.
self-policing. So, what good does that do? Yeah, in most
Right.
cases. Yeah. So
So let's talk a little bit about your mentorship and leadership. Can you tell us who mentored you and how did they shape your path?
well, I had two really good parents, and I can't really say that I had a mentor outside of my family. I just had good parents. They weren't perfect by any means, but um, I learned I had a strong work ethic, and I knew right from wrong, even though I chose to do what I did when I did it. So what I would say is that I would probably be much further ahead had I had a mentor outside of my home that was in the field of what I wanted to do, as opposed to having a family member there, because it's sometimes you don't listen to your family as much as you should. And sometimes they're limited in what they say because their world is your world pretty much. You're exposed to the same things they are, but if you have a mentor that's been exposed to all these other things in the field, that's much more valuable for me to be able to be a part of that. So I would say that my first, my mentors was my mom and dad. I really didn't have any outside of the home, but I would, like I said, the first thing that I would do if I was coming up in business, trying to start a business or wanted to be successful in life in general, I would get a mentor to bounce ideas off of, because they will kind of be that sounding board to provide you with their honest opinion, you know, and to provide you that feedback when you need it.
Because now the one thing that you just mentioned there about mentorship is very, very powerful. For our people that are listening, can you basically, as you broke down that difference between personal and people outside your family, can you break that down as to why, in most case scenario, it may be very possible that your best mentor could be someone outside of your family?
Well, sometimes with family, what you will find out when you take advice from family members is that sometimes you take it personal and not necessarily that it's professional advice. Um, because you're with your family so much throughout your life, it's good to get the perspective of someone outside the family, because um, this world is becoming less and less forgiving, um, and you would rather hear from somebody outside your family that respects you and that cares for you outside your family than getting that first real feedback from somebody who could care less about you outside of your family.
Mhm.
I think it also helps to build more community and also build more support that you might need um, as you continue to mature and become, efficient at whatever trade that you happen to be involved with. So I think it's very important, like I said, to have that outside the family mentorship. But I'm not knocking having mentors within your family also. You should have a number of people that you can reach out to that can give you great advice. If you can have one person that can give you good advice, you're blessed. If you can have two or three, that's even better.
So, what's your approach to mentoring young professionals today?
The young professional that I like to work with, that I would agree to mentor, are ones that are hungry and ones that are honest and ones that are um, problem solvers. They have a good work ethic. They don't have to be over their shoulder. If you have those three qualities, I would hire that person off the street first before I would hire a person that was a seasoned economic development professional with all kinds of credentials. Um, the person that's hungry, the person that wants to do better, the person that I know is going to, um, they'll work after hours for me to do things. They will go above and beyond. Those are the type of people that I like mentoring, because they absorb stuff, and it's like they can't get enough. And the thing is that being able to work with someone like that, especially at a younger age, I could probably it could probably increase their productivity 15 to 20 years in their profession, being able to move forward and become, an expert within that field. I really do believe that, and there's, I guess, several that I've worked with over the years that have gone on to do some great things. And of course, they become a part of your network also that you can utilize and call upon if they're ever needed.
So, how do you identify potential in someone who may not see it in themselves?
I think that to be able to identify potential and at least make people aware of it, I believe that less is more. If you're always around telling people how well they do, when you finally give them some subjective criticism, they feel like it's a punch to the gut, which is not. You just trying to let them know that, okay, you're getting off the path. Let's get back on the right pathway.
What's
When you
one piece that
when you plant those seeds of um, this is what I want you to do, this is the goal, and this is what I want you to do it type thing, all of a sudden, in most cases, they'll work towards that goal. They'll see it along with you. So I think that helping people to understand their potential starts with just planting the seed and giving them goals to shoot after. Even if they fall short of those goals, they have still moved further than where they would have been, because before they didn't have one. They didn't have a goal. So I think it's very important that people should identify goals that they have and not become um, complacent and acceptable of the status quo.
what's one piece of advice you give every mentee?
Piece of advice I give every mentee is, oh yeah, to don't do anything that you can't explain on the 6 o'clock news in 30 seconds or less.
Okay. Do they understand? Do they understand what that means?
Yes, they do. They do. Sometimes I'll give them an example.
Yeah.
Working in local government, you're under the microscope because of open records.
Yeah.
And in most cases, there are certain things that you can do in other fields that you can't necessarily do in local government because of the way it looks. It might not be against the law. It may not be anything that's crude or lascivious. It may not be anything that is necessarily wrong. But certain things, if they appear a certain way, then it puts you in a pickle where you have to try to explain certain things. So I'm always telling my staff, I said, if I were you, I wouldn't put that in an email. I would just call the person up and talk to them. If I were you, I would not, go to XYZ event because it's going to look like this, even though you're going for this reason. In most cases, when you exercise, my rule, don't do anything that you can't explain on the 6 o'clock news in 30 seconds or less. It'll keep you out of trouble.
How do you stay grounded while leading at high levels?
Yeah. Oh, I don't really think that I'm at a high level, but how I stay grounded is I'm willing to roll up my sleeves to do what I ask anyone else to do. So that keeps me grounded, and I'm always looking at the least of the people. Am I doing what's right for that individual? If I'm doing what's right for that individual, like I said, that equity, then I feel that I must be doing, right by everyone else.
What's the difference between managing and mentoring?
Managing, I don't feel that people need to be managed. Um, Manage is you're just doing, it's a process. You're managing stuff, and I hate to use the definition to define the word, but mentoring is more so you're showing leadership. I feel people need leaders, not necessarily managers. If they have a leader, they'll figure out a way to manage their activities to be able to do certain things to get things accomplished. So, um, but then you have some people that are not disciplined that need managers also. But those are two totally different things. Managing, some people need management, but I feel that mentors need leadership. They don't need to be managed. Managed doesn't show a mentor that you care. Showing leadership, showing what they should do, or teaching them to fish versus giving them fish, I think that that is what leaders do. A leader would just, a manager would just give them the fish for them to eat, but a leader would show them how to fish.
Well, I when we got a chance to chat, and I told you that we do Black History 365, and I asked you who were the most influential people in your life and your career. You told me Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and your father. Can you tell us why are Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and your father such powerful influences in your life?
Well, I'll start with my dad. Is that by no means was he perfect, or is he, that he is perfect. He's not perfect, but at the same time, he's kind of raised me and my siblings in a way that I feel that we stand on firm ground. We have a firm foundation. We know right from wrong. None of us are in jail. We tend to, we're decent people. We're good people. We have families, and we take care of our families. And that's both my dad and mom. Um, and as far as Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., you know, just throughout my, it's just growing up in school. I grew up in Southeast Georgia. Um, growing up in school, you know, we had social studies and history. The only thing that I knew about African Americans is that we were slaves, and as we came through slavery, we had, you know, we went through the civil rights phase, and you know, here I am. Um, I knew there had to be much more to history, Black history. Um, but the only really positive thing that I could really find in Black history at the time was, you know, Martin Luther King and what he had done, um, along with other civil rights leaders. And I've grown to have a deep respect for the work that they've done. I'm not sure if I would have been able to be like Martin Luther King and his followers at the time, and not believing in violence, because if somebody hit me, I'm trying to hit them back. But um, I feel you have to give them a great deal of respect for what they did. They did things for us then so that we can be where we are now. And what we have to do now is things for our families now, so that our grandkids are not having to have these fights down the road. So it's Martin Luther King and my dad, my dad being one of the first African American county commissioner in Camden County. I feel that they were definitely um, leaders in their communities, and I feel that, you know, that I have to step up and do my part at this time also, and I'm following in the footsteps of my dad, Martin Luther King, and other individuals that came before me.
Great lead in. Can you tell us how has their legacy shaped your approach to leadership and justice?
Well, I feel that even more so now than ever, I feel that a lot of our civil liberties are being taken, that it's chaotic. You're not knowing what's going to happen from one day to the next. I feel that because that's going on, that it's even more important for us to stay grounded and for us to work together. And like I said, keep a strong local government, regardless of what the federal government is doing. I also feel that it is in our best interest that we try to mentor those that are coming after us to be able to pick up where we will where we drop off, to continue, I guess, to get in that good trouble and to do those things which will help us, will help generations to come to have a higher quality of life and have, um, the freedoms that we enjoy now. So I think it's very important that we continue to work to do all that we can to work with those that are coming after us so that, all of our families can have a better life for years to come.
Mm. So, what lessons from Dr. King's economic vision still resonate today?
The reinvestment in our communities. We spend, and we being African Americans, spend probably 95% of our disposable income outside of our communities
Yep.
and with non-minority businesses.
Yep.
Um, Yet at the same time, we wonder why there isn't as much wealth in our communities. So I would say that we have to continue not only to invest in our communities and invest with um, minority suppliers, vendors for services, but we also, as entrepreneurs, need to do what we can to have the best product or service also, um, so that that's not an excuse that we can use of why we're not investing in our own communities. Sometimes I feel that people feel that they can provide a substandard service and think that they're going to be able to get the business. Well, I mean, if you don't provide them the service that they need, the quality that they need for what they need, then it's kind of a no-brainer that they're not going to do that business with you. So I would say try to do all you can to support. And if you can't support a Black business for one reason or another, if the service is not where it needs to be, communicate that to them so that they can fix it, because sometimes they may not know that it's even a problem in the first place.
You're absolutely right about that. How do you carry forward the spiritual and civic values of the King family in your work?
I do not know a great deal about the King family and their, as far as their spirituality. I know that Martin Luther King was a reverend. His dad was also, and it's like his daughter and sons have kind of followed in his footsteps. What I can say is that I feel that for you to be probably an effective leader, that you need some type of spiritual grounding, some spiritual base, that there has to be a higher power that motivates you to do the things that you do. So I would say that there needs to be a balance. You can't be all business all the time. You got to put God first, your family next, your business after that. And if you do those things in that order, I feel that you'll be successful.
What does beloved community mean to you in the context of economic development?
That's a good question. I haven't heard that one before. Beloved community.
Yeah, that came from Dr. King.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I can't even answer that question. I can't answer that question. I was about to chat GPT it, but I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not going to try.
yeah, that was one of the one things that Dr. King mentioned in one of his speeches. That really got the masses to listen, to learn, to comprehend, and to know that his message was definitely nonviolent, but
Right.
his message was very, very strong about the community
Okay.
and that our communities were off limits. Um, how do you honor your own ancestors and elders in your professional journey?
I honor them. I think I honor them each and every day by being a voice for those who don't necessarily have the voice, can't voice things themselves. I have been blessed with a platform of being able to speak to large groups, be in meetings that African Americans probably normally wouldn't be in, and to be that voice, that sounding board to make sure that the least of the people are not overlooked. So I think in doing that, I'm honoring my ancestors and those that have come before me, and hopefully others that I mentor and that I work with will continue to do the same, to kind of be that still that voice to support um, their ancestors also.
So, what role does history play in how you build for the future?
History is vital. If you don't understand the history, you're building on shaky grounds. And I feel that if you, any community that I work in, like I said, I do a lot of due diligence on the front end to find out the history and what type of things might work, what might not work, so that I'm not setting myself up for failure. And when I do that, things typically work out well, or better than they would if I had not. But like I said, history is very important.
Um, how do you stay inspired when the work gets heavy?
It's easy to become burnt out and stressed in the field that I'm involved. So it's very important that a person in this profession or in any business, that they have a release, something that they can do to kind of work the stress out of their life. Um, I think that it's paramount for a person to be successful. You have to have something that you can do that is going to energize you and it's going to recharge you. You have to rest. You have to go on vacations. You have to have that family time. You have to have a balance in your life. So that's what I do.
So, what's one quote or teaching from Dr. King that you live by?
A quote. I know many quotes by Dr. King, but what is one that I live by? I would say injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And what I picked up from that, it's going on today. Um, you see it too often. Um, the things, some of the things that are going on today nationally, if it had gone on, say, 9 years ago, it would have been unheard of. It would not have been something that would have been accepted. But now, the injustices that are going on right now, it's almost becoming the culture. Um, I feel that we have to be careful. You know, we're in the United States, of course. The things that we do here are mirrored all over the world. And with how chaotic things are here in the United States, I can see that it's going to begin to affect those countries around us. If we don't take care of our house, you know, and we're a major player,
Yeah.
we it's going to be a ripple effect. So I think that what's going on here in the United States now, in our country, it's got to be addressed. It's got to be addressed soon. I just pray that we are able to weather the storm and get things more in order in the short term.
Oh, final question. What do you hope people remember most about your life's work?
About my life's work, I would hope that people would remember that I say what I do and I do what I say. I'm not an eloquent speaker. Um, I try to be as tactful as possible when I'm speaking about various things, but I'm not the best at doing that either. But if I tell you something, you pretty much better believe that I'm going to do it in most cases. And because of that, I would say that I want people to remember that I'm a person of my word. And I try to do what's right. I think if more people did that, we would be that we would, this world would be a better place. Like I said, I'm just not the best at doing it or the most eloquent at doing it. But I enjoy people. I love people, and I love, trying to have a positive impact in people's lives, and that's why I do this work.
Well, and so in closing, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement that you would like to leave with our audience, telling them how they can connect with you via social media, your website, or any of the good things that you like for them to know and how they can just follow and catch up?
Okay. Well, my name is Artie Jones, of course, and I'm the founder and the principal of King City Advisors, an economic development consulting firm located here in the Atlanta metro area. Um, Been doing it for 26 years now for local governments, and I'm willing to work with any communities out there, local governments, nonprofit organizations, business people, to help you realize increased success in your endeavors. And my website is www.kingcityadvisors.com. That's www.kingcityadvisors.com. And if you reach out to me, visit the website, um, you can fill out the information, contact us, information section, and I can reach out to you, and I'd be happy to work with you. And if you're ever in the Atlanta metro area, please feel free to call me a couple days in advance, and maybe we might be able to meet for coffee and kind of have some discussions on what you may be doing in economic development or some questions that you might have.
Well, first thing is I want to apologize to you and the audience for disturbances that took place during this broadcast. That doesn't happen, but that happened this time. I want to apologize for that.
No problem.
But I also want to tell you that I'm so appreciative of the work that you do, and you are coming here to this platform so people can get the opportunity to learn again, what Black excellence look like, to learn what it is that you do and how you actually help in providing with the work that you do when it comes to economic development in several communities. Because, again, there's lots and lots of misconceptions, but I think when people can hear and see the person that does that work, that they get a much better understanding. And so the hearsay words don't really get as much chatter. And I also, that with this being such a wonderful show, I mean, I really, again, I'm just more than just humbled and happy. But I hate that it took so long, but it was well worth the wait, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Mr.
Um,
P. Like I said, I appreciate you having a show like this first and foremost, and you're doing some great work. Keep up doing the great work, and anything I can do to support you and American Black and White, please don't hesitate to call upon me.
yes, sir. I appreciate that. For those of you that are watching on all any of the 8 channels that we're broadcasting live on, I would appreciate your support if you have not yet, especially on the YouTube channels. If you would please subscribe to the channel and enable all the notifications where you're able to catch all the shows live, as well as you're able to go back and watch all of the great content of all the great leaders that have been here, that are here giving you all of the information needed to help you to not only grow your communities, but to have that self growth and help you to be a much better you that you're seeking to become. Um, I thank you all for watching. This is a special show here for this Friday that has definitely been one that's fruitful and just as good as all the others. And I hope that you guys can join us next week as we bring more shows to you here on American Black and White, where we will continue to color conversations on the canvas of America. Thank you, Artie, and thank everybody for watching, and we will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend.